9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
In the garden with a green leaf sway, sea bunnies rolling up, we light it all way. Mr. Getter's got the bombs, we puffin' all night. Talking cultivation, yeah, we're feeling alright. Light it up, feel the vibe, let it be known. Garden cultivation network, we on the scene. Rolling that green, living out the dream. Chatting about the strains, how to plan it right. Join us every week, yeah, we light up the night. Wednesday to Friday, we keep it alive. Cannabis talks, everybody's feeling high. Sharing secrets of the grow, it's a sacred art. In this cultivation game, you gotta play your part. Keep it real, keep it tight, watch the plants grow. Garden cultivation network, we on the scene. Rolling that green, living out the dream. Chatting about the strains, how to plan it right. Join us every week, yeah, we light up the night.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
This is going to be the very, very first premiere on the Garden Cultivation Network, and we have a special guest to welcome tonight.
We sure do. But before we get into that, just a reminder that you can find us over on Instagram under Garden Cultivation Network, as well as Spotify under Garden Cultivation Network.
Nice. You can find Sea Bunny Grow on Instagram and Mr. Ganix as well. So,
and if you didn't check out our last interview with High Grozyme Leanne, I definitely recommend you check it out.
Yes. Yeah, it was a good one, actually. We learned a lot. They went through all the products that they have, taught us all about how to use them, what they're for, and also told us all about their new products that they just came out with, their A and B nutrient line. So that was pretty cool.
Yes.
Leanne's always very knowledgeable, so.
Yes.
I'm going to bring on, introduce our guest.
I think so. I think we should just jump right into it.
Alrighty, here we go.
What's up?
What's going on? Welcome to the Garden Cultivation Network. We got J.R.Tokin in the house.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good times.
Anytime.
Yes, welcome.
Anytime, man. We were hoping to do this a little bit sooner, but as you know, there was some illness going around, so.
And it's still going.
But you get to be our very first premiere. Yeah, you get to be our very first premiere on this channel, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I hope to be able to be there for the premiere. When you guys premiere, I'll try to hop in the chat and chat it up with folks.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It's always cool, like when doing the premieres and stuff like that, or being there, and then you know the hosts or the people that are the guests or whatever, they're in the chat chopping it up, you know, hanging out with everybody. It's a little bit of a different environment than doing it live, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yes. So for those who don't know, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's J.R.Tokin. I've been a medical grower and provider for about 23, 24 years. I started vlogging on YouTube in 2015, just documenting my cannabis journey. And so that's on YouTube separate of the Cannabis channel. But I was in the first wave of folks with Mr. Tight and Urban Remo, all of us got our channels deleted. And then some of us got our channels back. I got my channel back, but I think it was 8,000 of my subscribers were gone. And so I had to start out at 0. And then I noticed from then my traction was lame. Like I was already in their buried shadow banned algorithm. And so I got together with my partner Q Grows in 2018, and we started Cannabis, the app. It was just an app at the time because we were trying to find or provide a space for the cannabis community where they could go and post freely. They could post their grows, they could post anything. As long as it was cannabis related. We didn't tolerate is religious or political shenanigans. And I think that kind of alienated a few folks at first because they always like to come on and troll each other. And we're not about that, So we're about the plant and we're about the fungi. And over time, we kind of evolved this ethos of decriminalizing nature. They're a group of individuals who are very impactful to my mission in the way that I kind of navigate cannabis. And my thoughts on that is if it grows from the ground in a field or in a forest, you or no other government should be able to block my own personal right to nature. I, as a human, have the right to access nature, to heal my body, to heal my mind, and to heal my spirit. And so we kind of been beating that drum for a while. And the app is designed for people to come on and interact with all of our lives. Every episode we do goes live on the app, and you can interact with our guests. You can ask them questions, all of that kind of stuff. So we've kind of been progressing the app along, but it's almost become this side thing as a community support for the podcast. So instead of Patreon, with its limited functions, you get cannabis.app, which is a full app. And so, like I said, we're a safe space for folks to come on. It's not like whatever it is, Telegram or whatever, where you can just be like, "Hey, bro, I got all these drugs for sale," blah blah blah. We're bound. We're bound by federal law, like all the other apps are. Right?
Yes.
So, but I mean, if you want to come on and show your flower, your garden or whatever, I don't think it's that big of a deal. And so we also support.
Where can people find that app?
In your Play Store for Apple or Android, any of the Android or Apple phones. Nice. Cannabis.app. The lowest, we do have a code word that I should know off the top of my head that gets you a month free. And you can hit me up. I'll try to remember that. But anyways, you can get a month free, and after that, it's $4.20 as a minimum to support the community. And the reason we do that,
I love that,
is it keeps a barrier from a lot of the scammers, the digital scammers, because if they have to pay for the membership, they're not coming there to scam. They're not.
That's right.
Right. So
that's actually a really good idea. That's actually a really good idea to do it that way, because it's not a crazy amount of money. It's just enough that, like you said, like people aren't just going to go do it for the hell of it so they can come in there and, mess with you guys. They're going to do it because they want to.
Yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
We've been trying to have guests on that kind of help growers level up and help growers kind of understand the industry. But at the same time, we also want to represent more than just growers and breeders. So we've had journalists, we've had glass blowers, hash artists. The last episode we did, actually, it was with a gentleman who has a plasma separator for dry sift. So in the old days, you had to bounce through the screens, static collect, all that stuff. Well, this statically charges the heads through a tube, and then it drops down between two plates, one positive, one negative. All your gland heads have a positive charge, so they slap to the positive plate. and all your particulate and stalks they have water content, so they all hold a negative charge, and bam, they stick to the negative side. So it's taking
That's cool.
sieving, it's taking dry sift and dry sieving to a new level, and I think that it's going to start really pushing up against what rosin is right now as a dominant force in the market.
That's pretty crazy, actually. I've
Yeah.
never actually heard of that. Like, I don't know a lot about the whole like rosin and hash making and stuff like that. I know a little bit here and there just from like listening to people like you talk about it, but I mean, I've never been involved in any of it really. But I find it super, super interesting, and with all this new technology that they're coming out with now, it's absolutely insane. Watching
It
the
is,
whole
because
cannabis industry level up, basically.
I
Yeah.
remember years ago it was on, I think it was on Hash Church, those guys like, oh yeah, get your old lady's hair straight, and get some parchment and squish this shit. And,
I've
I
done that.
tried, right. I tried it, and I put a bong hit in there and I squished it and I got some goo out and I hit it and I thought, well, I could have just smoked the bong hit, but I get it, I guess. And then the next thing I know, it becomes this giant revolution that has really, in my opinion, helped carried our cannabis industry and community. The value of rosin has made it to where guys can still, at the end of the day, feed their families.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is pretty awesome. So, yeah,
But yeah,
you
so that was our last guest, and we've tried to mix it up as much as we can between the fungi and the cannabis community.
nice. I don't know how I am for you guys, but my connection here is very, very choppy.
Well, you sound all right to me.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. You guys keep freezing on my end, but I know it's me though.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's okay though. As long as everybody else can hear you guys and you can hear me, then we're good to go. So right on. So you've been through quite the medical history. You have quite the medical history, and I'm assuming that that's kind of the reason why you got into the growing side of cannabis. I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure about that, but can you
Yeah.
kind of run us through some of the stuff that you've been through and how cannabis has kind
Yeah.
of helped you get through that?
Yeah. So my journey started as a 19-year-old kid. I was injured in a construction accident. I had a bunch of reconstructive surgeries that didn't work out, and it ended up they severed nerves that grew tumors on the end of them. I went undiagnosed for about 12 years with this horrific pain, and they kept trying to figure out ways to make the tumors not grow. I've had like 20 something odd procedures trying to experimental stuff, just trying to get these tumors to stop growing. And um, the pain level in the last 5 years was really horrific. I mean, I would have pain cycles at an 8 to a 10 for sometimes 40 plus hours at a time, just
That's nuts.
nonstop. And so
Yeah.
in July, I got a spinal cord stimulator. They put this implant in my spine, and it blocks that pain signal from getting to my brain, and it works pretty good. My life
I think
since
that
then
is
is,
so interesting.
yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
crazy improvement, and I injured in the 80s, dealing with chronic pain through the 90s and the early 2000s. You go through the full gamut of what the pharmaceutical industry wants to throw at you. And, that doesn't always give you the results of a quality of life, right? So you can
Yes.
keep
Right.
taking those
It might take care of the
medicines.
pain, but
It's always, first of all,
yeah.
chasing the dragon, because what used to work doesn't work, and then you need more. So there's that aspect to it.
Yes.
And then if you have severe enough pain, in order to make the pain go away, you have to be in such a mental state that you can't really enjoy life anyways. So what's the fucking points, right? So you got to
Yeah.
Yeah,
find that
exactly.
balance in there. And I started moving towards the direction of plant-based medicine. And I first, of course, started smoking. Then I would try like making butter and getting the internal edible effect, because back then I didn't know that when your liver metabolizes cannabis, it does a enzymatic conversion from delta 9 to a 11 hydroxy blah blah blah. So, well, the way it affects your body is completely different, like a almost like a narcotic medicine effect, right? And so I started figuring
Yeah.
that out.
Right.
And then I got diagnosed with cancer. I thought, oh, cancer, I should be doing RSO. So I did a fuck ton of RSO. And then I started dialing that in, because RSO is not, it's something you do need to dial in, because you can easily get really overly saturated, I guess we'll say. And there's times where you have to remind yourself that you're not freaking out, you're not going to die, and all of that stuff. So I just eventually dialed in that dose. And so now I take RSO every night before bed, and it helps a lot with also the pain management as well. And so then I've got this smoking and I've got this edible thing going. And someone turned me on to it. It was actually Christian from Conception Nurseries. In the martial arts and MMA community, they have a tincture called Dit Da Jow,
Okay.
DITDAJOW. And basically, it itself is a tincture of herbs and flowers and all kinds of cool stuff. And it's thousands of years old. A couple of the recipes are from the Shaolin Temple themselves. And so
Wow.
Oh,
the
wow.
tincture in itself is designed for two things. One, vascular healing. So it helps with any kind of bruising or trauma you've had vascularly. And it also has a massive anti-inflammatory effect. So what I did is I took that Dittajau, I added it to my cannabis infused coconut oil, and then I added some CBD isolate, some fun stuff, to kind of add on to it. And then I developed a rub, and that rub has been one of the most, it's probably the best cannabis product I've ever developed. Of everything I've ever
That's amazing.
done or come across, it's helping a lot of people, and I don't have the resources or the material to make it as a product. So what I do is I just give out the recipe. If you want it,
Yes.
Right.
hit me up. I'll make sure you get the recipe, and it's pretty simple. The only thing that's a
That's
little weird
amazing.
is if you're vegan or vegetarian. I use emu oil in there. It's the oil of the emu bird. It's a byproduct of their industry, and it has a
Okay.
carrier quality to it, similar to like a DMSO, in that it helps penetrate. So that carrier quality you can find in something that's a non-animal alternative, if that's something you're concerned about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing, really. Like that's like super juice. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I've never heard
and
of
so
the
dit da
Sorry, go ahead.
jow. Yeah, the dit da
Yeah,
jow.
I've never I was gonna say it, but I was like, I don't even know how to say it.
Yeah, so I thought it was really cool because they used it for their monks whenever they would have training or battle, or in the jungle fighting a tiger, for all we know. They would be able to
Yeah.
use this
Right.
as vascular healing. And so for us in our modern society, a lot of people have problems with circulation through diabetes. A lot of folks that are struggling with
Right.
type 2 diabetes, they have a terrible circulation in their lower extremities and stuff like that. And so I've got elderly people who are literally rubbing it on and then putting on their compression socks and are swearing by it.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
So
Yes.
were you already involved in cannabis kind of before? Like, were you already using it prior to all this, or was this something that you got into after the fact?
Well, I was a stoner in high school. I started smoking weed. And where I grew up at the beach, we didn't have an outdoor season. So almost all the weed in our area was indoor chronic. And so I started smoking at a young age. My best buddy's dad was a grower. I just kind of got into the culture at a very, very young age. And then when I was 19, I was injured and I had a wife and 2 kids. And so, the guy I was working for wasn't a compliant employer. He was a construction guy. And
Yeah.
I got told that I'm fucked basically. And so I had to figure out how to feed my family and survive while at the same time being completely horrifically disabled. So I just
Yeah.
learned, I just took those older practices and started putting them into motion. And I started subsidizing my medicine and my ability to feed my family. And I've kind of never looked back.
And I've seen your
That's really
plants.
cool.
You grow beautiful frosty plants. Are you synthetic, organic?
Um, I started out organic, went to synganic, where I was using a base nutrient that was a salt based nutrient, but I was using a ton of organic biostimulants and microbes at the same time. And so I kind of rocked that for a long time until I just got so fed up with bag soil. Any kind of bag medium to me it's problematic. The only one I found out there that I feel like does a decent job is the Bio 365 Bio Flower. I ran their Bio Flower and flower my last run, and it was fire. It was absolutely fire. But like I said, I kind of
Nice.
always wanted to do that organic route as far as my soil base and my battery. I never wanted to do cocoa just because to me, cocoa is hydro. It's a basically inert
Pretty
medium.
much,
So,
yep.
Yeah.
it's basically hydro. And so I was always philosophically, that wasn't my vibe because I kind of came into the scene as a weed nerd through Subcool and that whole movement of TGA genetics and the weed nerds. And so I always wanted to do this living soil, super soil type thing, but physically, with my condition, I never could. But since the surgery, I've been mixing soil. And so I took a Coots mix and I added it. I took like
Nice.
25 gallons of Coots mix and added 1 bag of the Bio All. And the reason I did is because their Bio All and Bio Flower is a living soil, but it's also chocked full of nematodes to kind of keep things in check. And it's also got a blend of cocoa that gives that Coots mix a little more structure, a little more place for the microbes to set up shop and do their thing. So
Yeah.
I've been
Nice.
I'm in week 6 and I've been posting videos and everything looks great. And it's just like water and
Oh
microbes
yeah.
only. I think in week 5, I did give them 1 bloom boost of bloom booster, 1 feeding in week 5. But other than that, it's just been water and microbes only. And it's been sweet.
Nice.
Nice. I like that too, that you actually have the nematodes already in there, basically. Like it's like your little worker army of predator mites just dealing with any issues that might come up,
Yeah, I did
which is
add
nice.
the
I always tell people
I
when they
did.
grow or oh sorry. I always tell people when they grow organically to be proactive, like just because they always end up dealing with gnats and this and that and whatever. And I said just be proactive,
That
attack
was
it
me.
before they show up, and you'll really never have an issue. Like they'll never get out of hand, I'll say, So no, that's cool that you do
Yeah,
that
I
right off the
agree.
hop.
And I also do buy the from Nature's Good Guys the SF nematodes, and then I will water in the first 2 waterings with those as well. And just as a hack, if you're out there, you got fungus gnats, it's really a problem
Nice.
for you. Nematodes and rove beetles will basically eliminate the life cycle and the problem of fungus gnats.
That's good to know.
Yeah,
Nice.
your nematodes
Rove
are
beetles. I've heard of rove
voraciously.
beetles before. I've never actually used anything other than like a nematode.
Yeah, so the nematodes are voraciously eating the bad guys in the soil, and anything that happens to get out of the soil Your rove beetles are on top managing all of that.
Catching them.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's
Hmm.
there are biological solutions for problems. It's just you have to have a willing to commit. And my thing that I always preach is if you're in flower and you've got those kind of problems, that's on you, because that means you didn't do all your due diligence in veg to get to there. If you're indoors, if you're outdoors, you're at the mercy of whatever nature gives you, and you have to treat accordingly.
Yes.
Exactly. The thing I like about outdoors, though, is most of the time, like with any bad pests that might come along, there's the good pests too. They're already there. Nature's
Yeah.
already got this figured out long before we ever
I've
did.
been
So
lucky for that.
that's the one thing that I really like about growing outdoors is nature just. I had a thrip problem one time inside, and I got tired of dealing with it, so I moved everything outside. I said, instead of killing everything, I'm just going to move it outside and see what happens. And nature ran its course, and I ended up making it through to flower and never had any issues after that. But it was,
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what would happen, and it worked out. So
Yeah, that's how we learned most of the stuff that we learned over the years, because outside of Overgrow and a few forums, we didn't have a lot of resources, until YouTube came about and people were willing to share. So a lot of the science our bro science we created over the years was based on doing stuff exactly like that. And there is there is a healing that happens in a plant when it goes outdoors. Like if you have a plant that's been ran through a few times, you've been cloning the shit out of it, take it outside, clone it, take it back outside, let it run itself a couple times in veg outside, and then you can take your cuttings off the meristem. Then you can treat that before you bring it into. And a
Nice.
lot of and a lot of times it will reset itself. There, like you said, there's something about these plants being outdoors that gives them. I think it has to do with the sun. To be honest with you, I don't. I think there's things that
yeah,
come from the sun and the air that we can't give it indoors probiotically.
yeah, and not only that too. Like when you're taking them outside and you're cloning them and stuff like that, then they build up more of a resilience to some of the
The
stuff
elements.
that outside throws at you, because there's so many other factors outside than we have inside, right? So if you can take it outside and kind of harden it off to that, then when you bring them back inside, it's almost like you've created this resilience to like powdery mildew and most pests and stuff like that. So that's a pretty good tip, actually.
Yeah, it's a good immune boost.
Yes.
It'll boost their immune system and get them in a healthier state, because a lot of the light that we put them under, especially this newer LED lighting, it can be very stressful to these plants. A lot of the plants have been
Yeah,
genetically bred under HPS, so they're not even used to being under a full white light LED type situation.
Yeah.
And then you've got LED light companies that will fuck with their spectrum to make efficiency ratings, and that's going to screw you as
yeah.
well. So I think the morphology in the plants gets stressed under a lot of this indoor lighting, and in ways that doesn't happen out, you know, in the earth under the sun.
Yeah.
Well, as they
Oh,
say, there's nothing better than sun grown, right? Sun grown everything
that's right.
is, sun is the best form of light for our plants. That's what nature created for us, I guess. So and
Yeah, if
thousands
you've
upon
got the
thousands of years, we've grown vegetables and fruits and everything outside. So,
if you've got the right genetics outdoors, and you can dry and cure in the proper way, it's hard to beat. It really is hard to beat.
So
yeah, it
what
really
would you
is.
say
Do you
is
have
your your best drying curing method?
Yeah,
What do
so
you prefer to do?
that's always a journey too. And so I started out with the cutting of the branches, hanging the branches, and then I kind of graduated to this method of whole plant hanging, but I buck off every leaf that has a stem. So that way,
Okay.
when I go to trim, everything I trim is hash worthy, right? I don't got any fan leaves or rusty bullshit mixed in with all my hash because I want my hash to be clean and delicious. So then I graduated to this whole plant hanging, and then I climatize my room with a humidifier and a dehumidifier. Because where I'm at in the dead of winter, it's very dry, and in the middle of summer, it's very dry. But all the other times, it's pretty wet. So it's like I have to have both
Right.
to climatize that room. And I also dry in the same room as my flower room because that's where I have the best environmental control and I'm not fucking up my veg cycle. So
Yeah.
I usually, on a good hang, it'll go between 12 to 16 days in a controlled. I start at 55% humidity and about 60 degrees, and then I rock that for about 3 days, depending on the biomass I'm dealing with from the variety. And then I'll bump that humidity up to 60, which will still kind of rock back between 56 and 63. It's got that little window in there
Yeah.
of variance. And so that's kind of the window I stay in with my humidity and my temperature. I keep right at 60 degrees all the way up until towards the end. Then I'll drop it down even more to like 55 degrees and just cold cure and cold dry as long as I possibly can because we all know that heat is the enemy of the terpene, especially your more volatile terpenes. They off gas
Yes.
at pretty 70-ish, 80-ish degrees, even lower. But so maintaining and keeping all those terpenes in their beautiful form is what kind of the name of the game is because we're not growing biomass. Yield is not the ultimate win. Quality
Right.
of the medicine and the taste and the aroma, all that stuff is what we're growing for. We're gland head
Yes.
trichome farmers is what we are. And so you want to
Yeah.
keep those temperatures down to kind of preserve all of that. And so then I'll come in out of that and I'll trim in a cold room. It's around 65 degrees. We're trimming. Everything that gets trimmed up into the bag, trim bag, goes immediately into the freezer, and that's being stored in the freezer for hash production. I do bubble, and then with my dried flour, I'll put it in a paper bag for 48 hours. And just fill the paper bag and let it set for 48 hours to let it kind of acclimate because that inner stem moisture is still going to come out. And so I bought one of those. They're a moisture meter for reading lumber, and I buy the analog one that has the two prongs on it, right? And you can
Okay.
set that drying meter for either wood or materials. You want to put it on the materials setting because that's for like reading sheetrock dryness or whatever. You just
Yep.
plug that into a bud. It has to be a single bud. You can have one bud on one end and one on that doesn't work. It has to be a solid bud. And then once that bud's at 7 to 8%, I go into a grove bag. And grove bags are those bags that breathe out moisture
Yes.
but lock in your terpenes, right? So the pores are designed in the way that, yes, okay, so you know about those. So I'll go into
Yes.
the grove bag for at least 2 weeks. After 2 weeks into the grove bag, I like to go into dark. I get the amber or purple mason jars. I get the vacuum
Sure.
Okay.
sealer, and then I just vacuum seal in that after I've been in the grow bags for 2 weeks. And that's my drying and curing process.
Wow.
So you'll store everything in the mason jars at that point.
Yeah, for long-term storage. I think I don't know, the Grove bags are, in my opinion, really good up to about 2 months. 2 months. After that 2 month mark, they start falling off a bit. And that's when I feel like your vacuum sealed jar can carry you from beyond that point as far as you need to go.
Hmm.
Have you ever used
Yeah.
any of the like the drying machines, like the Canatrol or the Herbs Now or anything like that?
No, but I have heard of the curator and the refrigerator ones, and those seem very cool. And if
Yeah,
any of those sponsors want to send me a unit, I'll definitely give them my honest opinion.
For
yeah, because
sure.
they're pricey.
Yeah, they are. They are. But I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
if you have this thing that's just perfectly dialed to the humidity and temperature that you want, I mean, that's bee's knees, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never tried it. I'm a lot like you. Um, I don't necessarily go into the mason jars. Like I do keep mine in the Grove bags, but it's funny that you talk about how after like the 2-3 month mark, they kind of start to fall off a little bit. Like I found some weed that I had from like 2 years ago that was still in a Grove bag, and I opened it up and it was like brown and kind of just like it was degraded. Like it was
Oxidized
just
and
it wasn't
yeah.
good anymore. It didn't taste very good
Yeah.
anymore. It didn't smell like anything. It was gone. Like
And
it was no good. So
that's the that's kind of the whole bummer of the recreational market that we have here in the States is that everyone knows cannabis is a perishable product. The way these guys have to process, get tested, get wholesaled, get on the shelf. Then once they get to the dispo, they're getting rid of their old shit before they're putting out new shit. So then by the time your shit gets out there, it's already like 6 months to a year old sometimes.
Yeah.
And then people are like, wow, farm doo-doo face, he sucks, man. You know, so that perishable product is something that we deal with, and I feel bad for those guys.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for
absolutely.
sure.
And yeah, I noticed on your Instagram, I think it was your Instagram page, you were showing a while back you were doing bubble hash and you were making it in the cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And you were
Yeah,
saying, I haven't
Frenchie.
done this in a long time, so just
Yeah,
bear with me. This is you were almost doing it kind of like in a way for like beginners, people that haven't done it
Yeah.
before. It was a nice
yeah.
kind of like tutorial on how to do this.
A
I thought,
Yeah, I
simple.
thought that was really cool.
yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was cool. I had about 8 or 10 people hit me up and say, "Hey, bro, I'm doing this in my kitchen. I'm doing this in my bathroom." You know, you could be in the 18th floor of a high rise with that same method and bust out beautiful, beautiful bubble hash.
Yeah,
It's
I
awesome.
just
which is
did.
nice
I just
for some of the home growers to learn.
Yeah, because we want to utilize every aspect of the plant. And like I said,
Yes.
we spent all that time farming those gland heads. And instead of just making a butter or a rub, you can make really, if you do those methods, like I said, where you're bucking off your fan leaves prior to your dry and cure, all your trim is going to be fantastic, fantastic hash material. And if you look at some of the returns that we were getting out of just that little beer cooler, they were phenomenal. But
Hmm.
like I said,
Yeah, and it's
I'm an old weed nerd, and I learned all that stuff from Frenchie. I had the pleasure of hanging out with Frenchie, and I also worked for the Do Grow Show. And I've been working and
Shout
consulting for
out.
those guys for about a decade now. Shout out DGC. And we had the pleasure of having Frenchie Cannoli on the show, which was a huge honor. So, It was years ago, so you'll have to go back in the archives to find that one. But yeah, I kind of use
Yes.
that same
Yeah.
gentle, no crazy machinery, whipping, beating shit, just gentle, super cold washing. And I went for the Press Club bags. They're around the $300 mark. I didn't go for like the $600 bags, and I didn't go for the $80 Amazon shit bags. So I went middle of the road, and I'm glad I did. They've worked out really well. I've already used them quite a few times, and they're holding up well. And I like that the whole thing is the screen. You know, it's like there's not screen and then plastic up the side or whatever. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Nice.
going
Do you
back
notice a
to
big difference between like the $300 one and the $600 one?
I wouldn't
that's a
know.
good question.
I would never pay $600 for
Oh,
bags unless it was like my business and it was my, you know, business. But
Yeah.
yeah.
no.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, Bunny, you were saying something a minute ago.
Oh, yeah. So going back to growing and pain management, is there a specific strain that you found was helped you a lot more than say another strain?
That's kind of tough because nowadays I believe that there are so many good breeders out there and good varieties that it's not
Yes.
really strain specific as much as it is effect specific. So all of my selections and all the clones that I sell through breeders and stuff like that, all of my selections are based on flavor first. So
Yep.
smell and flavor are what I gravitate to. And then once I get that, I put them in their category. Okay, this is my nighttime sleepy, knock me the fuck out weed.
Yeah.
This is my get up and day feel euphoric and conquer the world weed. And so I select on flavor and then categorize by effect. And I used to not believe in daytime weed and nighttime weed. I always thought either your weed sucked or it didn't suck. But now as I've gotten older, I have learned that every variety produces a chemistry, and
Yes.
every individual has a chemistry. And
Yep.
when those two meet, it's maybe different for me than it is for you. But I'm gonna notice either, oh, hey man, this really helps me with my pain, or whoa, I'm not as anxious as I was. I feel like I could chill out with a whole group of people and not feel like I'm gonna freak the fuck out. So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
people find these different terpene profiled cannabinoid profiles, these individual chemistries, volatile sulfur compounds, all of that stuff plays into the chemistry of the expression. And like I said, there's so many good varieties out there um, to to find those categories of things that you would want it for.
Yeah, exactly. It depends what kind of
Nice.
pain you're aiming for. Are you aiming for back pain? Are you aiming for headaches? That will definitely make a difference as well, for sure.
And I can speak to that because there's the bone aching arthritic pain. There's the jolting, shooting, electrocuting nerve kind of pain. Then there's that
Yes.
just like numbing, won't go away, gnawing kind of thing. And so you can find these different chemistries and different delivery methods to deal with this kind of stuff. And that's just on the physical stuff. That's not the mental and spiritual side of what
Yep.
cannabis also has to offer, because fungi will get you to the love source, the love energy, right?
Yep.
Cannabis is your daily vehicle to keep you in that love energy, to navigate all the fuckery that we find ourselves in on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Nice. No, that's a really good way to put that. Actually, I like that.
Thanks.
I think it's the
Yeah.
first time I've heard it
Um,
put that way, and I exactly. What were you gonna say,
but it makes
Guinness?
a ton of sense. Really.
Yeah,
I would
for
say
sure.
it makes a ton of sense. Like it really, really does. Like it kind of puts it into perspective in a way that non-users could understand. Actually, because there's
Exactly.
still a lot of people that disagree with what we think about how cannabis is medical, and well, the people still look at it. Oh no, it's a drug. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, so is all the stuff that comes from the pharmacies. Those are all much heavier drugs than that. And when you're talking about all natural remedies here that goes back thousands, if not millions of years. So like it's
Yeah,
awesome.
and
And
I
you
think that
dabble
I
you dabble quite a bit into the sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I think you froze.
yeah, you froze a little bit, but I think you were asking me about fungi. Yeah,
Yeah, I
one of
was kind of
the sponsors for the show is Sacred 3 Mushrooms. Sacred 3 Mushrooms 3.0 on Instagram. And Tanazi over there has really helped me become self-sufficient in my fungi access. In the past, I live in the Northwest around Astoria, Oregon, and it's the psilocybin epicenter of the world, in my opinion. One of, anyways. And so I would always have to do these kind of natural foraging things, and whatever I got would have to be what I used to sustain myself. When I was going through cancer and post-cancer treatments, I kind of leaned heavy on microdosing, like every other day to every day kind of thing, for probably about 6 months. And then I just got to a place where I don't really need to do that every day. And they say if you take so much that you're feeling it, then you've taken too much. You need to back it off. When I microdose, it feels like I've drinking a couple of espressos and I'm ready to be stoked. So I found myself not needing to do that every day, every other day. Now, when I feel myself getting to where some of the simple things that shouldn't seem overwhelming, like maybe this task I'm about to do is not as big a deal as I'm making it out to be, and it's not as overwhelming as it really is, then I know that's kind of my cue that I need to kind of get on my microdose until I correct that kind of downward behavior. And I think that's the therapy that microdosing has for folks, is that antidepressant, anti just feeling of not wanting to really do much, because sometimes just getting out of bed and doing life is extremely overwhelming for folks.
Yeah, that is something I
Oh,
definitely
absolutely.
interested
Yeah.
in doing, is microdosing, just for that reason. Things that shouldn't seem like a big deal, like you said, is just so overwhelming, and it definitely can play tricks with your mind for sure.
And I think us here in the Northwest,
Yeah.
we have a seasonal depression that's real. People hear about it and they don't,
Yeah.
they don't think it's real, but then they come up here to live here from LA, where it's summer every day. And then in
Yeah.
about fucking December, they're just like,
Yeah.
bro, when's it gonna stop
Yeah.
raining?
The
When
winter
is it gonna
blues.
right? When is the sun gonna shine again?
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that's why
I need my vitamin D.
I think that's why those fungi came from the ground, right? Is to help us get through those seasonal times of darkness, So, um, yeah,
I
I
love
don't know.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, they come up right about the right time of year too, right?
Oddly, they
Hmm.
do.
Yep. So, I was gonna ask you something and now I can't remember. Oh, when you're microdosing, it's so say today, I'm feeling overwhelmed, kind of, I'm kind of feeling a little bit dark or whatever. If I microdose today, is that something that it affects you today, or is this something that you kind of have to work into your system in order to feel the effects of it?
You'll notice incremental benefits over time. So you'll feel like you're kind of climbing out. And then after a while, you'll feel like, okay, I'm out of this. We're good to go, and I'm good. And that's kind of how it is for me. Is it's like I feel myself kind of going there, and so I nip it. I've learned to recognize it over time. So as soon as I start, I just kind of correct that before it becomes an issue.
It's
Nice.
interesting.
That's comes down to kind of knowing yourself. When you kind of
Knowing
feel
Yeah,
your
like you're heading in
triggers, your
that direction,
cues.
then you
Yep.
feel it ahead of time. So that's pretty cool too.
and like
Yeah, everybody has their
RSO,
triggers and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and like RSO, it's a dial it in kind of thing. They say, I think, what is it, point something, 0.1 or something like that. I don't do that much, not even. Um, I literally will take a nibble, like just about the size of a quarter of my pinky fingernail nibble, and
Oh
that's
wow.
plenty. That's plenty for me. Just a nibble. I mean, literally a nibble
Yeah.
will help change your chemistry. And like I said, when you can get into some of these kits or get into plugged into a community that can help you stay kind of sufficient, it's helpful. Like, so for me, I get these grow kits and they come up, I cut them down. 12 days later, they come up again. I do that about 3 times. And then by then, I've usually fucked up something. So I usually get about 3 flushes. And that right there is enough microdose to last me for a year, literally for a year. They don't.
Nice.
Oh
I
wow.
don't think they don't store that great for a year. After about 6 months, they kind of, I feel like, aren't as cool as they were. They probably might be, but I don't know. I feel like after 6 months, they kind of fall off as well.
Yeah.
But like I
Yeah.
said, with one tote, you can literally grow enough with one batch of 3 flushes to last you a year. Easy.
It's crazy. Now, how do you store something
Yeah.
like that? Is it basically like storing cannabis, or is there a
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
way to store that? Yes, pretty
Yeah.
much same thing.
I put them in Grove bags and then I just keep them in the fridge or keep them cool.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend putting them in the freezer. Any cool, dry type place. If you've got like a basement cellar or a
Cold
food
room.
pantry
Yeah,
down there, whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything like that's good.
that's pretty nice. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in the whole fungus psilocybin journey for sure. Like I've been looking into microdosing for a long time, and it's one of those things. I did a lot of mushrooms when I was a kid or a teenager, and now as an adult, I'm looking back and I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I could handle that. But listening to different people talk about it, it's not the same thing. We're using it for a
Yeah.
totally different purpose now than what we would have been back then. So going
Yeah.
into it with a completely different mindset now than what I was. But back then, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna eat a quarter tonight and see where I end up. You know,
Yeah.
now it'd be the same type of thing. Like I'm not trying to feel it. I just want to feel good. So no,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
definitely interesting.
In the community, they call them the hero doses, and I don't do that. I don't do heroic doses anymore. Like you said, I did enough of that
Yeah,
when I was
I
young
don't
to
think I
find
can
the
handle it.
center. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
even if I couldn't handle it, I don't want to commit 10 hours of just fucking melting my brain. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Just tripping
Yeah,
out.
I did that. I did
not at
lots of
all.
that as a youngster. I gotta tell
Yeah.
you, back in the
Yeah.
'80s, the LSD was really good when we were kids too.
Oh yeah, I messed around with that in the '90s. Definitely had my fair
But yeah,
share of that when I was 16,
you guys,
15.
you guys got it really cool up there in Canada. My buddy Brett, the dude from the Dude Grow Show, I go up and
Yes.
see him up there in
Yep.
over by BC, and it's like you guys got the Moonlander chocolate bars that you can order that are basically microdoses in chocolate. You guys got weed that you can just mail to a friend. I mean,
Yes.
we do that too. We do it too, but it's just not legal. So
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think here, I think you can mail up to 30 grams. I think
hell
that's
yeah,
what you're
every
allowed to
day.
possess. Like that's what you can walk around with in your pocket.
So
Yeah, I
I
think
can
Yep.
so.
mail that every day. That's tight.
Hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah, you just
Yeah. So
they just don't want you walking around with more than 30 grams in your pocket at a time. So 30 grams is our limit to what you can carry, I guess.
now I can speak for us over
So
only here in Oregon, but for the most of it, our law enforcement, they just don't even care anymore. Not they don't care at all, right? Is that kind of how it is for you guys, where they just stop caring, or they still kind of got a
pretty
hard on
much
for
like
it?
there's a lot worse thing there's a lot worse things that they do care about. Like our opioid problem here is incredible,
Ridiculous.
and
Yeah.
I think that's like that in most places right now. I think it's a thing that's kind of taken over, and that's their main focus right now is dealing with all that. So
That, but they
Yeah,
still
yeah, they don't really
want to
care too
catch
much
you
about the weed.
driving. They're still
yeah,
they want to catch you smoking and driving. That's their big thing
mm-hmm,
right now,
mm-hmm.
more
Yeah,
than the growing aspect of it.
yeah. They
Yeah,
their thing here is they try
yeah,
to prove impairment. They're not going to nail you
Yes.
for drinking or pills or weed. They're going to just try to nail you for impairment. And so
Yep.
that's kind of, but they lost their ability to search our cars based on a smell. And so they had to get rid of all their dogs, all their old dogs that smelled weed and would trigger for weed. They had to like retire those dudes and get new ones. But yeah, so I mean, our local law enforcement, for the most part, unless you're being a total asshole, they just don't care anymore. They got,
Yeah.
like you said, between fentanyl and meth and trank dope and all the new flavors of the month, they don't got time. They got people dropping like flies on a daily.
Exactly.
yeah. It's pretty sad, really. Pretty sad, but yeah, we are coming up to the end of the hour. Do you want
Yes, it
to kind of let
flew
everybody know
by.
where they can find you, where they can get that your Cannabis app, where they can get involved with that and kind of catch some of those live shows and kind of get to know you and what you guys are doing a little bit more?
Sure. We're at cannabis.app. You can yell it into your phone. You'll find us in Google search. And we're in all of your Play stores and all of that. And we're on YouTube, Spotify, all of the Libsyn podcasting platforms, and Amazon. Cannabis, we usually record every Sunday at 4 p.m. If you hop in the app, you can ask questions and interact with our guests. And
Nice.
we post those usually about the middle of the following week. And then I try to pop in on the premieres, but I'm not always good at that. But yeah, so that's where you can find Cannabis. Me personally, J.R.Tokin. I mostly hang out at Instagram at J.R__Tokin. And the reason I'm saying that is because I am so shadow banned that you can sometimes put in every letter of my name and not find me. Um, Also, I'm so shadow banned that I can't go live ever for life. And I also very rarely does Instagram let me follow anyone. I'll try to follow people all the time, and it just doesn't let me follow them. So
Yeah.
that's the best way to find me is the J_R__Tokin. And I post a lot of content there and on YouTube for the grows. I went to some amazing grows this summer. I saw 30,000 plants in the ground, and they were
Nice.
they were fire. So it was really good. So yeah, check
Wow.
out Cannabis the podcast.
Yes, definitely.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for your time.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it went fast. I got to tell you. Went fast.
It did.
It did go really fast. It's crazy. But yes, thank you so much. And yeah, like I said, we're going to rock this as a premiere coming up probably next week sometime. By the time people see this, it'll probably be Monday, I think.
Yes.
So happy Monday, everybody. And
yes.
yeah, we appreciate you coming on, man.
Growers love.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, later, dude.
Bye. That was so much fun.
Nice. That
So
was awesome.
much knowledge.
I wish I had a little bit
Yeah.
better connection there.
No, I actually learned a lot.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for watching and tuning in.
Microdicing. he's lagging.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you, everybody.
Big time. Peace.
Peace.